Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Market Forecast, brought to you by Options University. It's Monday, October 27th, 2014. Access to this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing contained in this video, website, or promotional material constitutes a promotion, recommendation, solicitation, or offer of any particular investment, security, or transaction. Options University provides educational services that are meant to teach you the risks and rewards of trading stocks and options. We're not a service that tells you what to trade. We're not implying or guaranteeing any profit. And as always, do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. With that, let's take a look at one of the strongest weeks that we had during the entire year. Looking at the Dow, the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, the Russell 2000. We see that all positive numbers as we look at those numbers that took place during the week in all four indexes. Looking at the Dow, percentage change for the week up 2.6% for the week, bringing it into positive numbers for the year at 1.4%. Nasdaq up 5.3% in 1 week, up 7.4% for the year. S&P 500 up 4.1% and year to date up 6.3%. Russell 2000 up 3.4%, still sitting in negative numbers for the year. Basically down right around 4% for the year. The weak sister amongst all of the indexes that took place. All of that in spite of one of the strongest weeks that we've seen in the market all year long. Economic announcements that took place during this week certainly are coming up. Last week, not much on the domestic side, but there were a number of international reports that certainly had effect on the market as we saw China and the European Union having better manufacturing indexes than what was expected. And we also saw that there is talk amongst the European central banks that they might ease and do some things that could help some of the struggling economical countries that are there in the European Union. So, looking at economic reports for the coming year, we see that on Monday we have pending home sales coming out at 10 o'clock. Dallas Fed meeting, manufacturing survey coming out at 10:30, and those are the main ones that we see for Monday. Nothing there that's really going to move the market all that much. Looking at October 28th, what do we see here? But at the very beginning of the day, we see the FOMC meeting begins. That certainly has been known to move the market before. Not expecting a great deal out of it at this time. Already had their bigger announcements last time around. Durable goods orders coming out at 8:30, and we see Case-Shiller coming out at 9. Consumer confidence coming out at 10. A Richmond Federal Manufacturing Index coming out at 10. And then on Wednesday, we don't have all that much happening except for the big one. There it is right there, the FOMC meeting announcement coming out at 2 o'clock and certainly capable of moving the market. Looking at October 30th, the end of the month, coming up very, very close behind it. We see GDP at 8:30, jobless claims at 8:30, and not a whole lot else happening the rest of the week. And then I'm the rest of the day. Then looking at Friday, October 31st, the last day of the month, we see personal income and outlays coming out at 8:30, employment cost index coming out at 8:30, and we got Chicago PMI at 9:45, consumer sentiment at 9:55, and some things that can move the market this week in what it looks like a week loaded with announcements. The big one being right there on Wednesday, FOMC meeting coming out. Looking at last week, by the way, we're in coming up into earnings season. We'll see exactly how well we do with earnings. It's interesting that we had a number of bearish reports. We had disappointing results come in from such big names as IBM, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, all missing. But the biggest miss of the entire week took place from Amazon, which dropped right around 12% with very poor current earnings, very poor expectations coming, and future estimates being lowered. But overall, what the market still do had one heck of a week. We've had a deep V take place where we had this waterfall decline taking place well below the 200-day moving average, which we haven't seen since November of 2012. And then what we see take place during the last week, 10 days, is we had this huge move upwards. Last week we talked about very often what we see is we see some support laid in at the bottom of these kind of markets. We saw this big tail taking place that showed the market turning around. We expected maybe some kind of retracement to show us. We still may get that retracement coming out. But what we saw was a huge bounce back up as money came back into the market. Looking at it with a little closer look, looking at just the last 5 days, we saw nothing but positive numbers coming out of the market as they had this huge gain for the week, moving everything up. The Dow followed very much what the SPX was doing, as we saw the Dow doing exactly the same kind of thing. Big sharp V taking place. Expect some kind of a pullback. We're sitting at that 30-day moving average. We may see some movement sideways as we go into this week, the last week in the month of October. May even see somewhat of a pullback, giving those that had a chance that didn't get in at this lower level when they got this higher high taking place right there. They give them another chance to get into this market. We fully can expect that by the end of the year. I expect new highs out of this market unless some big change takes place, as the bulls will get back in control and show us how this market can run in the best 6 months of the year. So by the end of the year, by the first of the year, I expect new highs out of the market. Looking at the nasdaq, we saw which was the big gainer for the week. Look at that same waterfall movement there, and a sharp V as it came back up and regained a good deal of what it had lost, sitting there at the 50-day moving average, wanting to move higher. Expect some resistance, and at this particular point, may even see a little bit of a trace back as we go into this week, the last week in the month of October. Russell 2000, which of course has had taken the biggest beating with that downfall beginning way back here in September, basically had that waterfall move and sharp V following that, but still in negative numbers for the year as we look at almost down 4% for the year. Yeah. Finally, the VIX, which went up to high into the 30s, we see back down at our lower normal numbers. But even though we've had this many days in a row of the market moving up, there's still a bit of fear in the market as we're up there around 16 rather than at 11 to 12 and a half, 13 that we saw take place so much during the first part of the year, as we had that little bit of pullback, setting the market up for the rest of the year. Looking at some of our other ETFs, looking at other sectors, the bond market, of course, did move up as we had that pullback, and now has moved back down some as we saw the market begin to pick back up. Huge volume. Remember, this is an exhaustion volume that took place at the very high. That was your key tip that the market was ready to turn around. Gold, which had that same kind of move, kept going down, did have a bit of a bounce and continued on up as gold finally starting to show some resiliency and some money moving back into it. Look at the volume that took place at the bottom of this market that took place and gave us that potential buy signal. You want to take a look at that volume. It really means something to you as we got a higher high right there as we moved up higher. And that volume was an exhaustion volume, and we could have read that right off the chart, and gives us an indication that the market's ready to turn around. Financials look just like the S&P, moving on up, not near its highs yet, but heading for future highs. Feeling some resistance at the 50-day moving average. We'll see whether it continues up. Now you can expect the financials to move very much like the overall market. Oil showing us absolutely nothing, pulls back with the overall market, and then basically goes sideways as the market begins its movement back up into its previous highs. And finally, for those of you that are gold members, stick around for our stocks to watch. We'll go through them, see how they did as the market gave us one of the big weeks. Which of those stocks gave us movements as we expected to see? For the rest of you, thank you for being here. This is the market forecast brought to you by Options University. It's Butch Shorak. It's Monday, October 27th, 2014. We'll see you next week where we'll go through market forecast again. Thank you for being here.